I want to introduce in the studio Jim Mueller. He's with Werner and Brumley. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Wonderful. You're a divorce attorney?
Yes, sir.
As we all say. Why does that always get a laugh, I wonder?
I know my wife doesn't like that title. Unfortunately, yes, divorce and custody, prenups, postnups, kind of what I do. And
we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Obviously, our President Trump and the whole Stormy Daniels Make America Horny Again campaign that we've seen. We'll get your thoughts on that, but I'm asking myself, should this story be as big as it is?
No.
Or no?
No, I wouldn't say it should be at all. It's amazing to see. I think it was one of the highest viewership that 60 Minutes has had in
10 years.
Yes. 10 years.
In 10 years.
But no, it certainly shouldn't. What it maybe could have implications on down the road, possibly. But no, this shouldn't at all. And it was interesting to see, as you and I were talking about, some of the questions that were asked even in and of itself were really, we're going the shtick route.
But we can agree that Anderson Cooper did a pretty fair job.
I think he did
I'm a fan of. I think I think out of all the media from the left, he seems to at least try to serve it up.
Certainly. Could have gotten even more viewership if maybe Matt Lauer was doing the interview. Who knows?
That's a good. Have you been rehearsing that one? That's a great joke. That's
David
a great
Letterman,
joke,
maybe.
Exactly, yeah. Letterman as well.
So we'll talk about that situation, and we'll talk about. And I put this up on Instagram. Has marriage become something that's almost like a business deal? It's a partnership. And are couples saying, well, you know what? We know you've had an affair, maybe two, maybe you've got one continually going on. Yeah, it's not enough. We'll just stay married. And I know back in the days, if we look at our grandpa and grandma, they would roll over on some of the things that we let slide today.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And I would say, unfortunately, it for a lot, it is not a business deal. But the reality is, for many people, it's nothing but a business deal. And that's the reality of today.
And I'm interested to know, and we can get into this much later as well, is what percentage of marriages start with prenups? And
especially these days, it seems like it's become almost the norm to ask for one, to get one, whether or not you even necessarily need one to protect assets or whatnot. And I think some of it, what stems from is, their parents went through a nasty divorce. They don't want that to happen.
Okay.
And they learn, maybe if I had a prenup, I can avoid some of that.
So a little bit of their past has come into play in their personal scenario. And I'm real curious, if you've got kids, you've always heard people say, well, we'll stay married for the kids for a while until they grow older, then we'll split up. My line of thinking is, why would you want to waste another 10 years of your life in a situation that you could change right now? And the example you're showing your kids is not is that
agreed 100%. What I would say is, a lot of people think it's the best thing to do for their kids, when in reality, if you talk to the other experts, some psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors, you're actually not doing a service to your children at all. You're hurting them. You're showing them what, in their minds, what does a marriage mean? How do you treat a spouse? How are you a good husband, a father, a wife, a mother? And they're learning bad examples because you're staying in a place where you never want to be.
And it's interesting, we talked before the show, I think right before you came around the corner, Chris, was that you almost have to be, yes, you're an attorney, but you're like a clinical psychiatrist, a WWE wrestling referee. I mean, you have to wear a lot of hats when it comes to a husband and a wife coming together.
Most definitely. And I laugh. Armchair psychologist is what I call it. I have no other letters behind my name to in any way say that, but I do a lot more wrestling cats and making sure that we can herd them into one little spot. And like I was talking with Chris, a lot of times you're trying to save your own clients from themselves. So we do a lot of psychology and counseling work, and I'll tell them all day long, you can get cheaper counseling, but they don't all listen.
Is it always, well, I'm curious to also find out, is it always about the money, or is it about some assets? Like, I want that car, or I want that guitar. You're not taking, I like that guitar, but you want to take it to hurt me. You don't even play guitar. I want that. Does it come down to assets, money?
So much comes down to assets and money, and I would say, too, it's amazing, and I couldn't even count on both hands how many times a wife wants to get a miter saw, and a husband might want the china. And let me tell you, it's probably not because they actually are going to use it.
They're just there to make them mad. What about pets?
We will do a lot of custody agreements, possession schedules, all regarding pets. I would tell you,
I am blown away.
I've divided a cat urns and cat collars. So, yes.
I love it. Jim Mueller is our guest. The website for you guys
is www.vernerbrumley.com.
vernerbrumley.com. Go check it out. And of course, Chris Ducray, So Quanta. If people aren't familiar with your company, give us a little bit of give you a 30-second elevator
30-second.
pitch.
What we
There
do is we reduce our operating costs for our clients by 50%. We have an intelligence division that does some really fun stuff, and then there's always the mergers and acquisitions, which really keeps you busy.
There you go. And I would imagine one way to I was making a bad joke.
Oh, please.
The divorces. That's one way to
that's one way to
lose.
reduce up.
It's a one way to lose your half.
It's one way to
increase
your expenses very quickly.
So we're going to have a pretty interactive show today. And, of course, you can always reach out to us on Facebook at 6:20 a.m. KEXP. You can reach out to me if you have any questions about divorce, about Facebook, about Tesla, any one of the things that we talk about today. You can reach out to me on Facebook at Brian Glenn TV, on Twitter and Instagram as well, which we'll get into the social media aspect of marriages.
Yes. There's a huge – I try to tell a lot of clients, just put the mouse down and put your phone down and don't press send, don't press click. Don't press post
because
they don't listen.
They don't listen. Because, by the way, it just came out, but because of all this privacy issues.
Yeah.
I watched the thing, and I'll pull up the audio from the Today Show, had it on today, about you can literally download everything you've ever done on Facebook. And I mean even searches.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an Android user, every message and every text and every call you've ever made is right there, and you can pull it down and get a list.
Yep. And I'll tell you, too, just because you think you deleted it doesn't mean it's gone. There's forensics that can go through and pick apart a phone. They might have been dunked in water. It might have been completely deleted. It's not. Unless it's overwritten, it's amazing what can be recovered.
Do you have social media pages for you guys?
We do. We're on Facebook as well. We're on
Okay.
Twitter. We're on, our whole PR stunt that'll have everything across the board.
There you go. I did notice that Elon Musk deleted his Facebook and I think the SpaceX page.
Both, yeah. He deleted both those, and I think somebody else just announced as well.
Oh, really?
They've removed theirs. I've got to take a look who that was.
Take a look.
It was a big Playboy. They were
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's interesting.
They said there are 28 million users deserve better privacy, so they pulled down their Facebook.
Yeah. I wonder if Ashley Madison pulled down theirs. Wouldn't that crazy?
They've upped on their TV commercials, so it looks like.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be an interesting show. All right, we'll go to break, come back. We'll have more of this. Plus, we'll get into depth about Tesla, and we'll get about Facebook a little bit more. But we're really going to talk about divorce in our society. And has marriage become just a business deal, or is co-parenting the next craze? We'll talk about that on this Wednesday edition of The Network. Welcome back, everybody. 3:19 on this Wednesday afternoon. We're talking marriage. We're talking divorce. We're talking Donald Trump. We're talking Facebook. We're talking Tesla. We're doing all that in a matter of 2 hours, roughly 2 hours. I'm also talking with Chris Ducray from So Quanta and Jim Mueller with Verner Brumley.
Yep.
Is the law firm here. Welcome, everybody, on Facebook Live as well. If you've got a question about marriage, you got a question about divorce in terms of business and how it relates. If you own a business, what should you do? Should you just put the wife on the business deal? I have no idea. But we're going to find out all of that today. So let's kick it off. Let's kind of start at the top. We talked a little bit about the Trump situation with Make America Horny Again with the Stormy Daniels. I don't know where to go with this because it didn't happen on the presidential watch. At all. He didn't break any laws that we know of. This is a story because there's a media that absolutely doesn't like our president at all, so that's one of the reasons why this is happening. But I've just got to ask you, what do you think's going to happen with this? Is this going to go to a court? Is she going to get more money? And let me ask you a question. She signed a non-disclosure, did she not?
She did. And that's the interesting part we have. I mean, there's a lot of issues as it relates to whether or not that non-disclosure agreement is going to be enforceable, whether it's not. Donald Trump didn't sign it, but his attorney signed it. So she's already asking the court to please declare that it's not valid, truthfully, so that she doesn't have to pay $1 million for violating in each violation of it. She went and accepted the $130,000. Whether or not that's going to be an enforceable agreement, I think most likely it is. That being said, that might result in an arbitration where I think it's going to get really interesting. We had talked a little bit before the show, is I think it might lead into a deposition of the president. If that happens, he's under oath. If that leads to an I'm lying under oath issue, we're back to Bill Clinton, Paula Jones. that's the downfall. It wasn't Monica Lewinsky.
So is this about an impeachment, an eventual impeachment?
I think it started with Stormy Daniels wanting to get more business.
Yeah.
You want to talk about business? I think that's where it all started.
Have you ever Googled Stormy Daniels, by the way? I looked her up on Twitter.
Might as well do it while we're
Yeah, you should do it while you're. I might do it on the company computer because I want my job. Ready to go. But she puts out some very well. She's a porn star. Let's just be honest with you. I mean, she's a porn star, and that's the content she puts out there.
And she already said it's led to more business for her. There's, why should she be faulted for this leading to more business? And that, to me, is the ultimate motivation behind all of this. She made it clear, not a part of the Me Too movement. She's not a victim, but yes, it's led to more business.
Yeah. And so as long as she's out there, continue to be out there, it's better for her.
Well, isn't that part of the PR machine?
The PR machine?
I heard she was in Javier's just the other night. So
really?
That's what they were saying.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Mueller's our guest. Werner Brumley's the law firm. Welcome, everybody on Facebook Live watching us. Share this video, if you will. We'll try to get some more questions and answers in there. We're talking divorce. We're talking marriage. And it seems like in today's environment that the things that go on in a marriage and that continue to go on in a marriage would have grandpa and grandma just their rocking chairs would fall off the front porch. What are you seeing it when clients come to you? Are they looking for any type of total resolve, or we want to split, or how do we maintain our business relationship together?
I think it completely runs the whole gamut. Some come to me just so that they can get information in the event something were to happen. Some actually will come to me wondering how they can prevent it because their spouse wants a divorce. And I laugh all the time. I'm not actually in the business of divorce and promoting divorce. I'm in the business of, if you're going to have to go through one, I want to be there to help you through it. And so I might give, and I tell this to all my clients, I give much better advice than I can follow at home, and my wife would completely agree with that. So I would say some do want to know, how can I keep this business relationship in place? I'm not happy with the fact that my wife or my husband's out cheating. That being said, I want to stay in the marriage. How do we make it work?
Do you have people, what percentage of people that come to you where they're coming to you because they discovered their spouse cheating? Or is it just mutual? We're just not in love anymore.
I would say it's half and half.
Really?
It's interesting. I would still say the majority of the divorces I see still go back to money. I would still say that's the root of the majority.
They're getting a divorce because of money?
Because there's financial
problems,
disputes, or there's what's now I call financial infidelity. Somebody's out there spending money, stealing money, or doing something that was hidden from the other spouse. That seems to hit home a lot more sometimes than sexual infidelity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the comment on here, Kathleen. I'm going to read it here in a second when I get my glasses. But we're getting a lot of comments on social media. So if I would love to these meetings where she drags him to come see you. She just found out he's cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Does he admit it? Does he deny it?
Well, they won't come to me together.
They won't come together.
Yep. So I can only represent one party. So it'll be one individual. Either the husband will come to me, or
does she
wife.
Want it all?
No. Ironically, I'd say very few do. Very few want scorched earth, and I think that's
scorched earth. I love that.
What kind of fun is it if you're not doing scorched earth?
Well,
right?
Exactly. I would tell you that no matter they want scorched earth or not, the job can be fun. Just because I will say I have a lot of lawyer friends, and I always will have better stories.
So if she doesn't necessarily want to just have him living under a bridge somewhere.
Not some do, but I would say our firm and my reputation isn't that. That's what I do, and that's what I represent.
There is and I'm not going to say the law firm. There is a law firm that you hear quite a bit on the radio, and it says we want to maintain men's lives, to be involved in their kids' lives, and protecting their financial means to do so.
Yes.
That is basically just screaming. We're going to protect you from taking everything from you.
Yes. The father's rights.
The father's rights. Wow. And divorce has definitely changed over the last 20 years. Big time. Big time.
It is. I was talking the other day to some people about this. What when you have adultery in a marriage, and how did it change? How's it changed over the years? It's changed amongst our society and also in the court system. Nowadays, infidelity doesn't mean as much as it did 10, 15, 20 years ago. What's interesting is what money was spent on that person, and did they introduce that person to the kid?
Okay, so it will get really nasty if she finds out that he spent a bunch of money on this girl, and they took trips to have jewelry, might be paying for her apartment or her house. It gets nasty then.
That's when it gets really nasty. And the interesting thing is when the wife's driving the 1990 Toyota and yet the girlfriend got the brand new Corvette. That's the problem. That's when they get mad.
We laugh, but that's probably so true, Chris. It's probably so true.
And if they're the business owner, what usually ends up happening is they stuffed it under the company to try to hide it.
No, is that true?
Yes, a lot of times.
And then we find it, and then we have really good leverage.
See, that's a good point, though. So guys like you go out and find all that hidden
Completely.
treasure.
That's exactly it. I mean, we could bring in people like Chris to figure out what exactly are they doing to kind of do a forensic search for us to find out where are they hiding, how are they trying to hide it, and what are they doing.
Yeah,
it's great negotiations when you find out, because it's either you're going to agree or
yes.
And
now what happens if what percentage of it is the guys find out that she's cheating and he's the breadwinner, okay, and she's a stay-at-home yoga mommy.
Yeah,
takes her kids to school. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's her job. What does he want?
Well, interestingly enough, and I would say probably most people wouldn't say this out loud, but I'm up front, open book kind of guy. I'd say the majority of the times it's the wife finding out the husband cheats. Fewer times is it the husband finding out the wife cheats. And I have said this many a times. Guys are typically stupid, and so that's the problem.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard when the deck is already stacked against us, isn't it?
We're just
the nature of how stupid we are.
Yes, and then you laugh because. I mean, I'm sure we all have an iPad when we have our cell phones, and a lot of people have a work phone, and they're all connected. And so, you go away on the trip, and your kids are with the iPad, and next thing you know, all your text messages are popping up on the kid's screen. That happens more than you can
I want to take a break here because I want to get into technology, and let's talk about how Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, the Internet has really changed the way relationships function and can get you in a lot of trouble. Because you can connect with an old high school friend, and next thing you know, you're done. You're done. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more on this Wednesday edition of In the Know. Stick around. We've got that, and we'll talk about Tesla, how their days could be numbered. Say it's not so. Chris, you called it.
Well, thank you.
You
believe
it.
me now, don't you?
I now believe you. That and a whole lot more. We'll stick around. All right, welcome back. 3:33 on this Wednesday afternoon. We're talking to Jim Mueller, Verner and Brumley Law Firm, vernerandbrumley.com.
Yep.
If I'm get the law firm straight. Chris Ducray from Soquanta, just a knowledgeable guy, in-house knowledgeable guy.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
I wish my wife would share the same opinion.
Well, all three of us probably. Okay, we are talking about divorce. We're talking about marriage. We're talking about now how social media and just the world of the internet can really break apart families and break apart marriages. And that, how many times does somebody come to you, Jim, and go, you know what? I found them instant direct messaging somebody and trying to recreate, reignite an old flame.
It happens all the time. And the interesting thing is it might come from an innocent place. The problem is it immediately creates insecurities naturally in the other party. And so next thing you know, you might be looking up, well, I wonder what happened to my girlfriend that I dated sophomore year of high school. Well, you're looking at it, then you're caught looking at it, their pictures, and you go through all those. Next thing you know, you're just wanting to say hello, and what started out maybe as innocent, darn near voyeurism, turns into an emotional connection that you're trying to escape what you have right now. And that's the problem.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is in a court of law, social media absolutely can be brought into a divorce case.
All the time.
Does it prove that you're cheating on somebody?
It's evidence towards it, big time.
So
yes.
They can pull up the forensics.
Oh, yes.
Look at everything.
They can. It is a step by step. It's only a few.
Do you have to get a warrant or a subpoena for that?
There's it's INRI Weekly Holmes hearing is what it's called, and you go through and you ask the question, and you go through those steps, and you can have all of the documents, all of their history, all of the photos, whether deleted or not, all produced.
I'm just commenting on social media here. Thanks for joining us on Instagram Live, which is crazy. You can't really talk about the subject on it. You can't preview it. It doesn't allow you to do that. So I have to explain to everybody what we're doing.
And that's the difference. That we didn't have that 10 years, 15 years ago. Nobody had a camera and a video in their pocket. So this was not as much talked about. Trying to get evidence of it that long ago is hard.
It would be like one of those cameras, but you had to develop the film afterwards. Right?
You had to go to Eckert's.
Right, yeah.
You got to go to Rite Aid.
I'm sure there's a lot of undeveloped film because they don't want that teenager who's developing to see anything. So yeah,
imagine. Okay, is it shocking to some of your clients when they find out that all of what they've been doing, what they thought was secretive, is all revealed?
It's amazing. I get the, wait a minute, they can find that? They can get that? Is that admissible?
Yeah.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Yes.
As my camera just as my tripod just slid down the board here. Apologize, everybody watching this and listening. So they're surprised that this stuff is now in court.
Completely. And they're even surprised after I tell them don't post anything. When they continue to post something, that also will come in.
So if you're in the middle of a divorce and you're saying, look, I'm tapped out on my funds, then don't take that trip to Cabo with that new girlfriend.
Completely.
Because that's going to just ruin your case.
Yes. I mean, it's one of those logic and common sense a lot of times in the world that I live in is thrown out the window.
It's thrown out the window.
Yeah.
So also, have you had anybody live comment their actual hearings?
We've had them try to record them, yes.
Ooh.
And then we've actually had clients it's amazing. There's some clients, even some other lawyers, who will comment on what they thought that the judge did and their personal feelings on the ruling, which is a great way to tick a judge off.
Yeah, the judge must really love them when they do that.
They love them.
Okay.
They really raise up in their boats.
Okay, so what percentage of divorces that you handle actually end where both parties are like, you know what, I can work with that. You got what you deserve. I got what I needed. We got a joint visitation for the kids. The dog is in agreement as well.
The majority of them still, I will say, at the end of the day, fortunately, will end in an agreement because they suddenly start to realize, why are we paying our lawyers for his kids to go to school? And I'll tell them that. Sometimes they have to go to trial because they can't reach an agreement. But save your money, put it towards your own children, not mine. I mean, I'm fortunate and glad for those that do. But that being said, they don't ever hear me rooting for that. They'll hear me say, let's get a settlement. And courts now require it. So you're going to have to mediate. You're going to have to try to reach an agreement. And usually I'll tell them, if you're not happy with the deal and she's not happy with the deal, it's a good deal. It's one of those that you can live with. Mm-hmm.
Business-wise, what if she was a part of the business? What if she was an original shareholder or a partner in the business? How do you work that out?
Sometimes it's interesting, depending on the relationship they had. If the two of them created the business from the beginning, they were both integral parts that continue to make that business successful. Most often I can see them actually working together later on still as business partners. They didn't work well as husband and wife. It's very interesting. Otherwise, you'll have the scenario where they might have been all part of the business. I can't see them again. I don't want to ever see them again. Well, somebody's going to either end up with the business, and it's going to be one of the two parties or a third party.
What if she's highly successful and he was just kind of a couch potato? But can he ask for a bunch of money too?
Anything, in the sense of, well, it doesn't matter. There's gender neutrality in the court system.
Really?
Family code, you cannot consider gender, so it
that.
doesn't matter at all.
I thought
that's very different from what I've dealt with in Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
So what is it like in Japan?
It is very much skewed to the men's side. So if anything, we might interpret, for example, the children or money, alimony, all that. It is very male friendly, which means that the women are pretty much kicked to the curb.
Wow. Yeah, it's different in our court system. I mean, literally.
Makes you grateful,
Yeah.
actually, how the systems work when you see differences.
Yeah.
As long as the money is earned during the marriage, it's community property. So if the business was created during the marriage, it's community, which means it'll be divided, so just and right division at the end of the day.
Have you seen some fights over, baseball trading cards and things like that? I mean,
I've seen fights over a barbecue pit that I keep telling them.
Barbecue pit.
The longer we fight over this, we could have bought 4.
4.
Yes.
But you guys keep that Weber.
Yes.
So both attorneys during mediation have a little clock behind them that just runs off the dollar amounts over hours, so when they're arguing, they can kind of keep it in perspective, going, yeah, we'll buy 4.
The good lawyers would.
Okay.
There's some out there that they don't want anybody to know that measure's ticking at all times.
That's fine. Yeah,
lawyers have a reputation for a reason. I'd say it's unfortunate, but yeah, there's good and bad of all kinds.
Jim Mueller's our guest. The website is VernerandBrumley.com, and Chris Ducray joining us in the studio. They fight over cars?
Yeah.
Automobiles a big part of divorce?
Not as much for the women overall, I would say. More or less, the guys care about the cars a lot more.
I wonder if they'd fight over a Tesla.
Well, as long as it didn't crash in autopilot mode,
There you go.
I'm sure they'll be interested in it.
We'll talk about Tesla and how some people say they're just months away from total collapse. And this is something that Chris Ducray said on this show maybe over a month ago and said, look, I don't like this company. You probably had this thought for a while.
Well, it comes down to the actual dollars and cents of it, and there are very few cents in it.
We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about Facebook. Is it too late? Have they already lost the trust of so many people? And, of course, if you're thinking about getting a divorce, you might want to deactivate that account as soon as possible and hope that Facebook goes under.
Yes.
And
As we tell them, don't delete it, just deactivate.
Oh, just deactivate
Just
it.
deactivate.
Well, is there a difference? Because
there is.
There
the
is.
court's going to say if you delete it, you're destroying evidence. Exfoliation of evidence, very bad.
would you ever believe that a social media company would have that much clout in a court case?
Yes.
You did.
Yes, I've seen it, and that's what happens when you give everybody the keys to the kingdom.
Okay. Snapchat, Instagram, is that still
Same
just
thing.
yeah.
All across the board. It's one of those everybody uses. I mean, it's amazing. You can have people communicating back and forth private messages on Etsy. You can do it on all these different websites now provide an avenue to communicate back and forth.
But they can still find it.
Yep.
If you want to.
As long as it's not completely destroyed, they can find it. People will do everything. It suddenly slips into water. Oh, my gosh, I don't know how this worked. I quote-unquote deleted it. It's not gone. It's amazing what the forensic companies can actually recover.
Yeah. And if someone wants to, they'll pay the money to research it.
Oh, completely.
Yes, they do.
See,
Thank
it
you.
is.
Chris loves it.
I know, because this is right in your wheelhouse in a
It
way.
is. Well, but you
It's like-
you have to, we look at it not from a standpoint we're trying to prove one thing or the other. It's just what is the facts and the data going to tell us? Because you're not trying to come in with an angle. You're just trying to look at the picture, and when you see all the data together, it is a very crystal clear picture, real quick.
Because go figure, a lot of clients can't understand people lie in court, and
No.
so
Do
they're
they-
kind of shocked.
Let me
Well,
ask you
they
this.
were under oath.
Do your clients lie to you though?
Oh, yes, and yeah, I mean that's exactly
That
it.
one I can.
I've
understand.
never sent a naked pic to that woman. And then all of a sudden, I'd like to
Exhibit A.
Yeah, Exhibit A. Is that you?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like me.
have a recess to
happens,
go
doesn't
change.
it?
That happens a lot.
Oh my goodness.
Well, in the world of tattoos, can make things more identifiable whether your face is in it or not.
Oh,
Wow.
I have no idea. That watch is not mine. Exhibit B. Here's your watch.
And what is on your left hand, sir?
Yeah.
There you go.
I promise I have never been to Cabo with that woman.
Yeah.
Exhibit C. Here's a picture of you and that woman in Cabo. Man.
Yes.
So at what point do you just start giggling, even at your own client, going, "Dude, mate, really seriously?"
Yeah, it's one of those when the judges start giggling. That's when you're just.
Do they start giggling?
No, they're pretty good about it. But you can
Do
look.
they want to?
You see the eye rolls. They're human.
They're human.
They're human like the rest of us. And
Female judges, male judges, any different?
back and forth, same
Back
thing.
and forth?
Yep.
They,
Exact same. They
do
all,
women, you don't think women would be more critical on a cheating man than
I think it's actually almost the opposite. What's interesting is because they're very successful. They're females. They have a family. They don't respect it one bit.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you're a coach of your kids' teams. You're harder on your own kid than you are on the other.
That's true.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question before we go to break. 25-year-old bombshell model marries a 72-year-old old man.
Yes.
And all of a sudden things aren't, quote, working out, and she files a divorce.
Uh-huh.
Does the judge look at that and say, "Look, sister, we kind of know what you were doing getting into this"?
Really, it'll depend on the length of the marriage, but not
Yeah?
necessarily. It just depends on. I mean,
Is there a link that's kicked out, like 5 months, 6 months?
the judge will take that into account to say, "Look,
Okay.
this was a short-term marriage, and it's all very fact-intensive for a case-by-case basis." But if it was, if you're getting married for 3 months, don't expect a windfall of anything. So,
Wow. Website once again, if people have questions or if they
Yeah.
want to file.
good.
They want to file for divorce. This is it. I mean, I'll fill out your phone number
Yeah,
if I
look
can
it
see
up.
it.
It's Werner Brumley, Mueller Parker. We're at wernerbrumley.com or 214-526-5234.
All right. We'll take a break, come back, and we'll continue this conversation 4 o'clock hour. If you missed it in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll kind of recap a little bit of it. Coming up after the break, we'll talk about Tesla and Chris Ducray. He called it. You should be on Wall Street, my friend. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more when we continue a Wednesday edition of In the Know. 4:04 on this Wednesday edition of In the Know. Jim Mueller joining us in the studio from Werner Brumley, right here in Dallas.
Yeah, right here in Dallas. We're right off Oaklawn, over there across from Albernaze.
Nice little place to. I know exactly where you're at. And then Chris Ducray, So Quanta is his company, and just kind of a brainchild here on Wednesdays. Appreciate you coming back.
Thank you very much.
Lions Den was incredible last week.
That was a great time. Thank you very much for that invitation. It was great to float around and see the not only the businesses, but what was actually happening out there in the world for
Yeah,
people.
wouldn't it be great if we were talking about in the break, if they would have had that when we were 25 years old?
Unbelievable. The opportunities, that's what Chris and I were saying. There's so many more opportunities now than we ever had.
Ben came in here earlier and said we sound like a bunch of grumpy old men, which I might agree with him on that.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to accept that.
Yeah. We were all back in our day, but it's true. I mean, what a great thing that is. And if you missed that, you can go to the Lions Den DFW.com and look for the next event because they got them in other states.
Yes, they
like,
do.
Alabama,
like
Birmingham, or
6 months from now,
6
or
months
something.
from now.
I think they do them biannually.
What's that?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Denial. We'll talk about Facebook here in a little bit. They've got, once again, a little slap on the wrist. Their stock has dropped 20% since this whole scandal, this whole data leak scandal has been going on. 20%. Now, they're going to recover. They'll be just fine. They still got 100 billion people on that freaking network, so it's not like they've lost that much.
And of every generation. That's the key.
That's a good point. But you know what, though? But at the same time, I had this conversation with some middle schoolers over the weekend. And I did kind of a random survey. I said, raise your hands who's got a Facebook account. One person out of about 20 had it. And they go, yeah, I just got it because my mom wanted me to get it so I can see pictures of our cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
For using a photo, not for their social media, but just to keep up on family photos,
Right.
which makes complete sense.
So it'll be the MySpace of the next
It will
generation.
be the
Yeah,
MySpace.
MySpace.
We looked that up yesterday, which, by the way, MySpace is still in existence.
Yes, it is.
I had an account on MySpace before.
Yeah.
I hope they can't recover that as well.
I'd love to see the pictures.
I want to hear the theme song.
Yeah, I think so. And Tom was my friend. Tom was everybody's friend. We're talking about Facebook, and we'll get into that. We'll also get into how you can get in trouble in court from the stuff you did on Facebook. If you thought for some reason I'll just deactivate my account, all this will go away, that I'll go to court, the divorce will happen, and they'll never find out that I bought all that stuff at Tiffany's. Yes, they will.
Yes, completely. It's not gone. We can recover it, and it's there.
And if you're an Android user, they can find out a lot more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Phone calls,
Oh boy, can they
text
find out stuff.
messages,
Location,
location. That's
How,
scary, too.
where you drove, where you stopped, where you went. It's
Do we
pretty-
want that in our lives? Do we want this robotic tracking of everything we do?
It's a blessing and a curse. I think there's times when you always wish you had. I mean, I couldn't imagine some people where you want to know where your kids are at all times. Yes,
Yes.
I want it. But
Would you
no,
put a GPS tracker chip in your kid?
No.
No, I don't think so. I don't
So
know.
if something happened, you could just pull up your phone. You know exactly where little Johnny's at.
The world is not that dangerous here,
Okay. Oh, I would agree with you on that.
but we are more careful now too.
Yeah, we are.
And the dog hadn't learned to call, so they're chipped.
Yeah.
That's true. I do believe in chipping your pets.
Oh,
Oh,
The pets
absolutely.
can run off, and they're pets. It's a dog.
He's
he
not
sees
gonna.
another dog, wants to go sniff their butt, and he runs off.
He's
then
not
next
gonna.
thing you know,
He's
they're
not
gone.
gonna give an address. Tell them where are you lost? Yes, I need to go this way.
Oh, but man, the sanctity of marriage has just changed so much.
Completely.
Completely. And one of the comments I got on Facebook earlier, and thank you, Kathleen, for chiming in on this comment, is that it's just changed, and there's almost no respect for it anymore. I mean, someone will hit on a married woman regardless if she looks like, if he's there or not, or even if he's there and goes to the restroom, they'll hit on her.
Yes, and that's the interesting thing. It is. It's not.
There's no respect for it any longer.
Not in every marriage, but I would say in a lot of them. That's why we're employed. That's why there's so many divorce attorneys and family law attorneys and all of that. It's very interesting. I used to joke with my wife all the time. I haven't worn a wedding band since we were first married. I lost 3 of them,
Yeah.
literally doing yard work. So it's that long ago. So it's one of those where I joke with her. If I'm out and wore a wedding band, I actually might get talked to because I must be good enough that somebody's willing to stay with me.
That is an excellent point.
I just lost too much weight and it doesn't fit me anymore.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
That's actually really good. How'd you lose all the weight?
Oh well, it
Eating?
was work.
Diet?
It was
Work?
it was work and exercise and
Nice.
the basics. But when you drop 50,
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's
wow.
great.
That is great.
that
It's all about the diet.
it's calories.
What you put in your body.
But then you realize certain things don't fit anymore. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, you go flip your hand and you see a ring go cling across the room. You're going, wow, that's really cool, but.
when not done on purpose.
Not done on purpose. No, it's very different.
So social media has played a big part in divorce cases. So
Yes, it's the downfall of many. It's amazing to see what people think is private, what it's not private, and what they'll post.
does it start with something harmless? Hey, I discovered that there's. I can give you. I'll give you a perfect example during this show.
Mhm.
And we'll get on Facebook. Well, maybe we won't get on Facebook Live because she'll see it. But I can look up an ex-wife on Facebook, and let's just say I just wanted to message and just say, hey, it's great to see that you're still alive. You're still doing well. Is that where some of these things start?
Some of them start
Just
there.
with an old flame like that.
Yes, and it just starts from what I think might seem innocent. At the same time, a lot of people will wonder, well, why are you even reaching out to them? Why aren't you reaching out to, your 8th grade buddy, Ted? Instead, you're looking up somebody that you dated or, you were with for a while. And that's, I think, where it starts the insecurity in your spouse. Mm-hmm.
There you go. And once that little door is opened, it's full press.
Slippery slope from
It
there.
is slippery
What starts
slope.
as a very innocent can just go out of control. And sometimes even before the person knows it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if someone gets in a situation, you're telling them, do not delete your account.
Correct. Don't delete your account at all. Once you delete,
Could you just leave it open, just don't post?
correct?
Now, could you delete specific photos in your account?
No, don't
Don't
delete
even do
anything.
that.
Don't delete anything at all. You cannot in any way delete information or that. You can get in trouble with the courts.
Can they find out what you deleted, what was deleted?
Yes, they
Oh,
could
okay.
recover it. And that's the interesting thing is I tell clients all the
I got to
time.
log in real quick. Hang on.
And I'll tell clients all the time, do not post. And it's amazing the power and pressure that has. It just hit click.
I'm trying to log in my Facebook.
So
Forgot
maybe
my
you need to take a
password.
different perspective of post.
Right,
Post.
It's kind of like they should sometimes have breathalyzers on phones. They should do it on Facebook. After so many, you just cannot post anymore.
Yeah, and it's probably these late night,
Yeah.
late night
Yeah.
messages that seem harmless, but you never know where that goes, and that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Does proximity play into it
Oh,
for
that's good.
people?
Good
Of where they are and where
Yes.
they live.
So,
and kind of how they,
for example, you've got somebody on the other coast and you're saying hello. Do you see the same slope happening, or is there an issue as it relates to proximity?
I think it's about the same whether they're across the coast or not. It's
Okay.
amazing to see over the years. It's kind of something you might have heard about before, but being in the business, you go back for a high school reunion and somebody wasn't happy and they went back to that high school reunion alone.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm on looking for my ex-wife. And I'm not going to say the name. Please don't show the camera if we have it on there. I think she blocked me, actually. Because I really do, because I know she has an account. I think I'm blocked, but I don't know why I'm blocked. I didn't reach out to her in any inappropriate way at all.
That's because her husband said you're blocking.
Well, she's
her.
been. I found out it's been about 3 times she's been married
Okay.
since me. So it's not. It wasn't about me. It was apparently she's broke.
Do you feel better?
I do feel a lot better.
All right.
We were young kids.
Yeah.
Somebody should have stopped us from the very beginning. I really don't see her on here. I don't have no idea. I'm just scrolling down. Oh, wait, no, that's not her. I know she got a bunch of tattoos after she divorced me. I know that makes
Any of your name, or is it crossed out? That's the key.
all of them. They got barbed wire, and they're all crossed out. Oh my goodness. Okay, so if you plan on filing a divorce, don't do anything with your Facebook. Just leave it all.
Just leave it all. Just don't post. I mean, it's one thing to have things with your kids, but it's amazing just to see what people think is okay to post. Just don't do it.
Just don't.
Just
do it.
stop.
Just stop.
But nobody, I laugh, and that's very few people listen to me of my own
don't.
clients.
Because though, and especially if they say, "Well, I don't see that person. We haven't talked in months."
Yes. Oh, and they're adamant, and they will.
Exhibit A, phone records.
We were talking earlier. We were saying how it's amazing people will lie and under oath all the time, and clients are shocked that other people will lie. And, well, they'll do it, and they'll stick to their guns, regardless of. Here's a photo where it shows that you posted that. I was never with them. Exhibit B, is that not a photo of you?
That's a photo of you taking the photo, post on those.
This is photos of you provided by NTTA of the Nicole booth. She's sitting in the front seat with you going down the road. That's not my Porsche.
Exactly.
We laugh, but that's happening.
All the time. It's amazing. It is, and you try to keep them out of court when they're going to be their own worst enemy, but sometimes they are just adamant they want their day.
Well, let's take a break. We'll come back. Let's talk about the Trump Stormy Daniels situation there. What we can expect to go further from that. Let's make America horny again. Here's what's funny, and I don't want to get no, I'm not going to get political. I told myself that I wasn't going to get political at all, and I was done kind of getting political, but it's really interesting, the faces of the Democratic Party now.
Oh.
16-year-old kids and porn stars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I want my guidance from. 4:15, we'll be right back. Wednesday afternoon, thanks for joining us. I am Brian Glenn. This is In the Know, and we are talking about Facebook. We're talking about divorce, marriage, and its sanctity in our society and how it's changed, and technology is now more in our lives. Is it making it better? Is it making it worse? Yes, you can find that old high school girlfriend you had, which, by the way, I want to search real quick. A girl left me at my prom, and I'm going to look her up right now. Elizabeth. I'm not going to say her last name over the air. We'll just see if she's around anywhere. All right. I have 62 mutual friends. I am willing to bet this is her. This is her. I found her. Let me just reconnect real quickly. No, maybe I should.
Maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe I shouldn't.
So are we? Is this the case of not can't save your client from himself?
Yes, sometimes.
Okay.
Yes,
Just checking.
This is her, Elizabeth.
Might want to ask your wife.
Yeah, I might want to ask her if that's okay. She probably didn't care at this point, I would imagine. All right, but let's talk about your business, though. If someone is partners on a business and they're 50-50, but they're for some reason divorce is in the future, how do you deal with that?
If they can't, if it's a business that's going to be community property to be divided, we've got to figure out a way. How do you divide that asset? Somebody's either got to, just like co-owners of a home, you've either got to purchase the other one out of their equity. You're going to continue to own it, in this case, continue to run a business, which very rarely happens, or you're going to have to somehow sell the entire thing off to a third party. And so that's kind of, if you have two people involved, sometimes they might be able to work together if they truly just see it as, look, we didn't work out as husband and wife, but we are great business partners. Yeah. And I was like, what is it, on HGTV I was watching the other day, there's a couple who has their own show, and they used to be married together. And you kind of laugh. So clearly, that business that they created worked well for them as a business. They weren't good as married, husband and wife.
How does debt play a role in working out the final solutions?
Same thing. We just, in the sense of that debt has to be paid and it has to be assigned to somebody. So we've got to figure it out, and we got to structure it all. And really, kind of what our specialty is complex, high asset net worth individuals, and figure out how are we going to divide it? How are we going to structure these types of things? You get some people that are worth, $50 million, but a lot of it's not liquid assets. How are we going to structure a type of settlement that everybody can be happy with, and then secure those payments for the other spouse? And we do that all day in, day out. It's kind of what we do.
Do you find that people who cheat on their spouse funnel some of those expenses through the business?
Certainly. It's amazing to see that there's an extra car that somebody's driving that doesn't actually work there, but it's always run through.
Have you
business.
found that? That's kind of what you do.
Yeah, we have found things ranging not only from cars to living circumstances to
condos?
Much more.
Condos? We had a condo in Jacksonville. Yeah. And I'm not talking just Florida, not Texas.
And what's interesting is even depending on the size of the company, most people don't know.
That's true too.
So,
yeah.
It's okay. You're doing what you're doing in your business, but, the moment becomes other people's interest in it. It's amazing. Not only if they're going to lie to the attorneys during the divorce process, wait till you see what happens when people like us have to look at it, the amount of lies that they try to go to cover up. And it's like, it's the same thing, not just picture. Here's the bill of you signing the lease with her living in it. It just...
Cover-up's worse than the crime. It really is. And you laugh. And the idea that we have so much technology now that allows us to do so much, it also allows us and people not to be able to hide as much.
Yes.
Back in the day, I think it was probably easier to hide money. Now, you can trace so much of it. It's certainly difficult.
And you don't have to become confrontational about it either.
No,
so now it's just, you know where to look, and then you can find it. Now you've worked out the questioning to work it through.
100%. As a business owner myself, I laugh because that also, I kind of know the loopholes. You kind of know, well, here's what I would try to do, and you look for those avenues, and you're able to track it down easier.
Your advertising budget is amazingly large.
Who is there any stat who files for divorce first? The man, woman, doesn't matter.
If there is, I wouldn't know it. Who files more? And it's kind of some of those we were talking about. A lot of people always ask, who do you represent more, the man or the woman? Probably 50-50. Doesn't really matter.
Does any divorces end up just saying, you know what, let's get back together? Maybe we don't need to file
Interestingly enough, it's one of those that'll say, met with somebody just the other day who was filing a divorce just because they didn't know another way to get him to try to go to counseling, and they've tried everything. And fortunately, they ended up going to counseling, worked everything out, and all it led down to was they didn't have a line of communication. I think, Chris, you and I were talking about that. So many divorces come down just because they didn't have good communication.
They don't talk?
They don't talk.
Does he work late? She works late. They with the kids.
You get in a routine, and next thing you know, it's I'm up early in the morning. You go to bed late. I'm going to help with the breakfast and drop them off, and you'll do the afternoon pickup and go
dinner.
Here. And then next thing you know, you're just running in emotion. You're just on autopilot.
Yeah, just on autopilot. Interesting stuff here.
Yeah, I think the perspective that keeps coming out is that there is responsibility that people have to have, and unfortunately, divorce is one of those things that you better be planning ahead on.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, so you talked about prenups and things of that nature. Do those roles just similar to the Stormy Daniels saying, "Hey, there's a non-disclosure agreement." Well, like I'm going to listen to that. do you have that same issue of going, "Well, there's a prenup. Well, I'm going to go after it." I mean, how does?
I just gave a speech about prenups. We were kind of laughing. Prenups, postnups, all these partition agreements. They were almost disfavored back in the day. We then to a little bit of okay, it might be all right. Now it's to the point of if they're done correctly and dot their I's, cross their T's, it's actually pretty hard to overturn a prenup, which is interesting. And so it's come down.
No matter how bad it gets, right?
Yeah, no matter how
one
bad
cheats
it
on
gets.
the other, and it's just nasty.
Here's what it is. It doesn't matter. The assets are already divided. Now, the kid issues, that's completely separate. We can't in any way compromise or in any way negatively affect their interests as they get older. So you can't predetermine child support. You can't.
How do you? Well, not the prenup, but how do you figure out what child support is? By the way,
It's all governed by the family code in the sense of it'll tell you if you have one kid, it's 20% of a net monthly income, capped at $85.50. So the most under a guideline is $17.10 a month for one child, $21.37.50 for two kids, unless there's extenuating circumstances that show the kids have additional needs, they have additional costs or medical costs for them to go above and beyond the guidelines. It's going to be set like that, and that could be true for millionaires.
I've got 3 kids. Let me just do the math real quick. Holy smoke!
Let's see.
I can't afford to get them.
$25.65.
That's a lot of money. Chris is doing the math.
$25.65.
There you go.
Wow.
$25.65.
So it's amazing to see. And
is there any state that's the best state to get a divorce in?
Depends on who you are. Some think it's Texas. Guess you laugh. You can be worth $100 million, and if your child support could be $17.10 a month, that's different. That's completely kid issues are separate from asset issues.
But I would think a good parent would want to take care of his child.
Yes.
I mean, that's just human nature, I think.
Well, I think it's a responsibility, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's natural. It's nature.
Now,
I mean,
like California, what's that like?
California is a free-for-all in the sense of same with kind of New York. And that's why when you hear about, Charlie Sheen's paying $100,000 a month, how does that happen? Well, because they don't have these caps. It's truly a percentage of overall income, assets, etc.
So is that why everybody's moving to Texas for real, though? Where are we leaving California? Dude, we're going to get a divorce. I don't want to pay it.
I have a lot of clients who we are getting divorced in Texas, and we need to keep this divorce in Texas. And, yeah, that's how that works. Good, so. And it's amazing to see the calculations. That's what's nuts.
Is it amazing, or is it somewhat disturbing when you actually see the calculations?
Well, I'll tell you, as I think we're all parents in here.
Yeah.
I can't raise one child off of $17.10 a month. I wish I could. By the time you get all of clothes and food and sports and school, and then it's also supposed to help contribute to housing, and it's hard.
Yeah.
That's 2 kids. That's $30,000 a year just on 2 kids' child support. Boy, my kids better not be costing me that much.
Yeah.
Don't add it up.
Yeah.
No.
We might have a meeting when we get home.
Yeah, I'm calling a meeting.
Line them all up. Say, all right, now you're going to work to contribute to this.
All right, let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation. Jim Mueller is our guest. Werner and Brumley is the law firm. VernerBrumley.com is the website. Chris Ducre's with us as well from Solquanta. Website for you guys.
Solquanta.com.
There you go. And, of course, if you want to follow on social media, it's a great place to reach out to you.
Yes, same thing. We're on Twitter.
Ironically,
we're on
Facebook is a good place to reach out to you.
You got to take the good with the bad.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll take a short break, get some water. We'll come right back. Jim Mueller is our guest. Mueller.
Yep.
Like Mueller. Not like Bueller, but Mueller.
Exactly.
There you go. Werner Brumley Law Firm, and then Chris Ducre in the studio. Talking about a range of things. We'll get to this Tesla situation here in just a second. We'll talk a little bit about Facebook and the breach of data and your trust. It comes down to trust, and relationships, it comes down to trust.
Completely.
Give me an example, if you have one, of maybe someone was married for 50 years and just one day woke up and said, I'm done.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens?
It's amazing what they kind of call silver divorces now.
Silver divorces.
Silver divorces in the sense of they've been married 50 years, and this, I guess at that point in time, something happened, something clicked, and life's too short. And so they'll go and get a divorce. And those are the hardest things about that is you hope that they can both survive on their own, because that's such a cohesive unit for that many years.
Mm-hmm.
You really fall into those habits, you know, and especially if they don't have a size of an estate. Okay, well, and one spouse isn't working, how are you going to support yourself on your own?
It's kind of sad. You got to, when you take on a client, you really get to know them. I mean, you become like a counselor for crying out loud.
It's interesting. I laugh because we probably know our clients very, very well, better than a lot of business attorneys might and whatnot. At the same time, we're kind of like the plumber too, because we're necessary. Sometimes a necessary evil, but you're not always getting invited to. Oh my God, my kid's getting married. You should come to our wedding. That's not how we're. You're the different type of lawyer, but you might have. How do you know this guy? Oh, he's been my business lawyer for 20 years. So a little bit different.
And of course, if you're going through a divorce, keep your social media the same.
Yes.
Don't change it up.
Don't change it. Don't delete it. And if you can, stop posting. Just deactivate it. Keep it all there. Don't delete it.
Forget your password.
Exactly. It'd be wonderful. God knows I have enough passwords. I'm just trying to remember them all.
Yeah, well, now
maybe that's
Facebook,
what your firm should do, is like just take over that and says, we're going to just change your password so you can't get into it.
Stormy Daniels.
Yes.
Where do we go from here on this story?
The interesting thing is basically, I think, in her declaratory judgment, trying to figure out whether that non-disclosure agreement is going to be enforceable or not. That'll be the next step. And if it's going to happen in arbitration, and to me, whether or not they're going to put the Donald under oath at any time for a deposition or in any way testify. I think that's where, as a public, we might care one bit. And truthfully, it's going to lead to a similar Clinton issue is, will he tell the truth? And if he doesn't tell the truth, can they prove that he did? And that's kind of was the downfall of Clinton.
And one of the comments I had on Facebook that I read was, we elected a president, not a pastor. And I kind of look, I don't, if anybody's looking at, for any president, for a moral compass in your life, you're headed in the wrong direction. No pun intended.
Yes. Darn near any politician.
Right. So, it's easy to do character assassinations on politicians and people in general. We're all human. Why he did that in 2011? If he did it. If he did it, I'm thinking he probably did, because I just a hunch.
You're a billionaire.
You're
kind of get to do what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, and isn't that historically? I mean, if you look at Rome and all that over history, it's people in power do whatever they please. Now, whether that's in line with people's moral positions is irrelevant.
And I think the interesting, we all talked about this. It's not the first president to have an affair at all.
No,
not even close.
The whole Kennedy family.
Yes,
down to every one of them has done something.
We were talking about. I mean, Marilyn Monroe. Everybody kind of just gave a golf clap to JFK. It wasn't like they crucified him for it. And so it's interesting. I think that definitely the way society is right now, there's those out there that definitely do not like President Trump, and they're going to make it known.
And they're going to make it known with every single thing he does. And this is just like
it's going to be an ongoing battle for him, no matter what. So
that's true. And it's a distraction.
It is,
but I think it's also a distraction against. If you look at all the good things going on in our country, it's a total distraction from just being positive. And that's why, in a way, I decided not to spend as much time on Facebook or even Twitter is the worst.
Yeah,
it really is. But you're right. It's become it's what everybody's talking about.
Except I do follow his and read his tweets. That is entertainment at a lot of value. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. You're just like, wow.
He writes them. The ones on the ones in the weekend I found are incredible. Like along the lines of like crazy.
And I venture to say we probably haven't had many presidents without an ego. I would think just to have that position, you probably think pretty highly of yourself and aren't very meek or unsure of yourself, and so but to give a voice.
Yeah, but would you want a president that would be that way? I mean, look what you've got to deal with on not only a local but national and international scale. I mean, these are serious games that are being played, and If there's any sign of weakness,
Yeah.
there's problems.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say you have a high-level CEO, a C-level executive, and they're out having an affair. You can hear in the news now that could cost them their job.
It does now, not
Yes.
before though.
Before, yeah, but now, yeah.
Now you talked about athletes before.
Oh, yeah.
Athletes are a target. Well, anybody that has any sort of position or money is a target. And now, particularly, and now
Is there
particularly-
morality clauses? Is that why?
We have a lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them in the contracts. When a lot of the C-level executives, a lot of these different
No
stuff.
strip clubs.
Completely.
No. Yeah.
We put morality clauses in prenups. A lot. It's interesting.
I had I had 2 morality clauses in the last 2 contracts I had, and
Yeah.
I would never look. I'm not one to go to a strip club anyway, but it said if you go any places like that you're out.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be where you had to go in order to stay in the company.
Yeah.
So think about how a lot of this has changed
Man,
in
think about that.
in
The
a good
80s,
way. Yeah, in the 80s and
We're going out for
90s.
drinks. Come on.
Yeah. Who's watching Mad Men?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these, say, oh, the world's become immoral. Well, it's always has, but if anything, there's some, I'll say, institutionalization of morality in places that haven't had that accountability before. And so the fact that there's a morality clause in your contract would say before, it would probably been opposite, right?
Yeah.
Now to be including it, they're thinking, particularly, for example, Facebook or Twitter, you could be on your own private time, write something up, and they're, you're going to get a call from corporate going, dude, you're out.
Yeah. And technology keeps everybody accountable.
Oh, it sure does. Yeah. Don't be
Not
snap-
necessarily anonymous.
Don't be
but-
snapping those pictures
Right.
at the strip club. Definitely don't want to do that. Wow, we've learned so much today. We really have. Interesting.
Oh, well, that's why we're in the know, right?
Yes. Good job. There you go. No, it's just interesting how yeah, we're just so connected as ever, and it's just you can't escape the world.
No.
You can't fall off the grid completely.
And everybody loves to watch it. Because, I mean, the Stormy Daniels interview, best example. I mean, the highest ratings
But by
in
the
10
way,
years.
I just saw something. Yes, the highest show in 60 Minutes in 10 years, but also the Roseanne Barr reboot.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Smoked the Stormy Daniels interview.
that
Like doubled it.
Actually, I like that.
Yeah, it kind of gives you.
I've got a
faith-
little bit more faith in our society
Yes.
because of that.
Yeah, I just saw that come across.
But even with all this access to information and access to we can become public voyeurs of everybody else.
Yeah.
You can know the secrets of your neighbors because your neighbors are talking about it.
Yeah.
So I think there's been a veil that's been pulled down where we used to keep things behind closed doors, and now it's very much personally. Hey, look, this is what I'm going through. Now some of it's fabricated, but
I mean, 10 years ago, did anybody go to a restaurant and the neighbor next to you took out their big camera to take a picture of their food?
Yeah,
Never.
you're right.
I left.
I did that just today at the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Took selfies and everything.
I remember one of my first meals my wife cooked for me when we were at home after getting married. My mother-in-law wanted to take a picture, and I was like, I'm starving. It's been 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm starving.
Starving.
At least anything tasted good.
And with
after
the Matt Lauer situation, I mean, that
Yes.
cost him his job.
100
did.
Yes. And it's interesting to see. It's what is amazing to me is how often these things, they're coming out now, but it's not as if it just happened.
Mhm.
That's what's crazy. This Stormy Daniels thing happened a long time ago. Matt Lauer, that stuff's been happening for years, and it's been a culture.
and everybody knew.
Right.
And now it's this is bad. What are you doing? It's like you guys are all perpetuating it, but there's a good change to certain aspects.
It's interesting. I heard a movie preview on the radio yesterday, and it was advertising this teen movie. It's about it's about 3 dads who try to break up the pact that their high school daughters had to lose their virginity at their prom. It's kind of a comedy, and they're talking about he's gonna go out there and do something blocking and all this stuff, and it's just joking about these girls, doing all this. And I thought to myself, we just came out of a year in Hollywood where you couldn't look at a woman the wrong way. You
Yeah.
couldn't give a compliment to a woman. If someone walked by and I said, you look great in that dress, I could honestly lose my job over that.
Mhm.
But yet Hollywood keeps pumping out this garbage and really glorifying the fact that women are out having sex and girls are having sex. I mean, that's the warped. They want to be so nitpicky. That's the wrong word. They want to micromanage everything that a man does, but Hollywood can pump out whatever they want.
But I think that's why the ticket sales continue to drop.
Yeah.
I mean, the good stuff is going to float. Good content's going to always float.
Yeah.
But there's, it's part of the game.
Yeah. Well, I tell you that I bet you if you're a divorce attorney or just an attorney in general in California in the entertainment business, you've been busy.
Unbelievable.
My goodness.
Unbelievable. It is. And you just.
So you want to move to California now, don't you?
No, I'm good here.
New
I'm good
LA
here,
office.
too. Don't wanna go there. I'm good here. All right. Well, we got to take a break, wrap up this hour. We'll talk a little bit about Tesla when we come back, and we'll just wrap up all the contact information for all of our guests. We'll do that in about 3 minutes. We'll see you. All right. As we wrap up this Wednesday afternoon, we have talked about everything on the show: Facebook, divorce, marriage, business. Now let's talk about Tesla. You told me, Chris DeCray, about a month ago that you were not a big fan of Tesla, and that, yes, it's a slick car. Yes, it's trendy. Yes, it's pricey.
Yes.
But fundamentally, as a company that has any type of economic stability, it is lacking all of that.
Yeah, their entire lifeblood and lifeline is debt. They
It's
just
debt.
borrow money, or issue more stock. And now they can't issue any more stock, and they're running out of cash. Like within the next 3 or 4 months, they're out of cash. So you've got to raise money, and the only way you can do that is through getting loans. The problem is Ukrainian debt is cheaper than Tesla debt.
Yeah.
Or safer, I should
So
say.
if you're an investor, you're better off investing in Bitcoin or Ukrainian bonds
Yes,
than Tesla itself.
correct.
And let's talk about the number of cars Tesla makes a year. Ford cranks out about 7 million
Mm-hmm.
a year. Tesla does about 100,000.
100,000,
Wow.
yes. And yet they hemorrhage money out of it.
They do. They
So
hemorrhage.
you're losing they come out about $20,000 per automobile.
Yeah.
They lose.
Wow.
But they've done a lot of innovation in vehicles in general. I mean, if it wasn't for Tesla, we wouldn't have a lot of the batteries and things like that.
Oh, we wouldn't have the whole revolution in electric cars that we're having
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
true.
So, but now you're starting. They woke the giants. So people like Toyota and BMW and Ford and all those guys have really deep pockets. And as the article mentioned before, Ford's got $12 billion to play with in cash, whereas somebody like Tesla has to go out and say, "Would you please lend me some more money?" Which
Yeah.
I suspect people are going to do it.
Oh, yeah. And
So
it's-
you think Tesla is going to continue to keep pushing on? Because remember,
Yeah.
companies like Amazon, great example, for
Mhm.
years bled money,
Yeah.
and it just took investors who kept pumping it in.
Well, and the problem is that you still have no pathway with Tesla to make money. So they're generating cash. They don't have enough sales. I mean, they're selling a $100,000 automobile.
Yeah.
How many of those are you going to sell before somebody like BMW or Ferrari or Lexus is going to go, they're in my way?
Mhm.
But they don't even sell. I think the numbers on BMW 7 Series were not even close to 100,000 in sales.
I think you're right. I think the Range Rover,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, the Range Rover, they only made maybe 12,000,
Yeah.
10,000 or
Yeah.
12,000 a year for all of North America. That's that's
Yeah.
Canada and U.S.
Mhm.
And what's fascinating, though, is we're fortunate to live here in North Texas where we get to see – I see more exotic automobiles here in North Texas than I did in Menlo Park and Atherton back in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And, it's nice to be able to see the toys.
Thanks, Ben Beckert, joining us on Facebook Live. Now, this Ben Beckert, here's a guy that's got automobiles, and he's a car guy. I'm a car guy. But to think that Tesla, let's just say, what if Tesla does not get the investors they need? Could they simply close the factories up?
Yeah, they would be out of cash. They would not be able to operate. So I suspect you would have bailouts or somebody would pick it apart. But I think a lot of the automobile competitors would be happy to see Tesla go away.
Yeah. And, of course, they've got this major plant. They just invest like $5 billion.
$5 billion. Yeah, $5 billion in Nevada. Now that was a joint with several people. I think Panasonic was involved because they were doing batteries. But $5 billion for a battery plant versus $1 billion for a complete auto assembly plant.
Yeah.
I don't know how you
The numbers
possibly
don't
can
work.
do that. Yeah,
The numbers don't work at all. And, of course, they tried to come out with a little bit more of a kind of an entry-level
sure.
Tesla, if you will, to kind of lower that price point down.
And
even that's at what? 40,000?
It's
40,
still like a
50,000.
40, but yeah.
yeah, I think when you're all of a sudden you're up there. But the problem is they can't produce in large enough volumes in order to start realizing the economies of scale that you need at
Yeah.
those levels. They keep trying. If they can find people to keep bumping money into them,
Yeah.
fantastic. But it's not going to be my money.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. Thanks, everybody watching
Thank
us on Facebook Live. We'll log that off real quickly. Okay, let's kind of wrap it up. I hate to say, if you're looking for a divorce, call this number now. But that is very much what the conversation is today, especially if you have a business that's kind of everything's kind of all kind of meshed together.
Completely.
It can get kind of touchy.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we handle. A lot of the business stuff, the complex asset division and whatnot, the custody battles, and prenup, postnup, everything in between.
Yeah, there you go. Best way to communicate with you?
Best way to communicate with us is call our number 214-526-5234. You can find us online at www.vernerbrumley.com. Law firm Verner Brumley, Mueller, Parker. We've got all kinds of social media, so look us up.
There you go. We didn't ask this question. Timetable for a typical divorce.
If everybody's in agreement, you're going to kind of do an amicable one. You're looking at maybe 60 days to 75 days. If you're going to fight it out and nobody's going to agree and you guys can't want to do a scorched earth, you're looking from 6 months to a year.
Scorched earth. How many? In 1 in 10, how many is a scorched earth?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Boy, they want to scorch it, don't they?
They do, and they just won't listen to me saying that it's not worth it and you're not going to be happy in the end. But
who's wanting to scorch who?
It depends. It's 100% 50-50.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's a full-blown war.
Yeah, equal opportunity from each side. It is not necessarily one side versus doing it more than the other.
Scorched earth. The new term.
It is.
Yeah.
There's your service lineup. It's like regular, and then down here scorched
Yeah,
earth.
what car wash do you want? You know?
We-
I want the tire deal. That's we're agreement.
Yeah.
We'll do a kitchen
The
table
couple
divorce.
walks in actually holding hands.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
That's an easy one.
They come in like scorched earth. That's going to take a while.
You might want to try to sell them on it, though.
Yeah. All right. And of course, Quanta website for you guys. I mean, if you were looking to mainstream and kind of streamline your business, cut costs and expenses.
So soulquanta.com.
Yeah. You guys look at all kinds of stuff, the forensic, what they're spending. And
We look at things that probably you never thought you'd be looking at, and but it's always for the betterment for all parties involved.
And a lot of times it's people are just overspending on stuff. You find out
It is.
people don't really do their jobs, and or we've all had that company. We've looked at somebody and says, "What does that person do?"
Well, that's usually the conversation I get my daughter looking at me. She'll say, my friends will say, "What's your dad doing?" She'll, I don't know. And it's better to just enjoy life. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Things are good. Otherwise, you start hanging around with me too much, you can get too jaded because you're going to say this. The emperor has no clothes, so
Yeah.
just go out there and
that
enjoy
came
it.
from you, not the family law.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have on deck for tomorrow? I don't know what I got on tomorrow's show. We've always got something fun. I got a very busy show. I know on Friday coming up. Let's see. We've always loved my guests on the show. Which by the way, big shout out to Jeff Crilly and his team for setting all this up, and Chris Gambari behind us. That's on video. I really love that as well. Debbie Saviano on the show Friday. Then of course tomorrow is the grand opening of the Big Beat Dallas, nice musical venue happening right there in Las Colinas. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus Geeks on Call will be here. So if you got any computer problems, it's kind of nice to call those guys. I cannot get my printer scanner at home, my HP printer scanner, to freaking connect to the internet. Like I can't. I have no idea. It says it's talking to the router. It's got the password, but it's not printing out. Maybe I'll ask those guys about that as well. And then it's just always loaded. Of course, Google calls in on Friday to see what was trending on Google. Which, by the way, I don't think you're if you get a divorce, that other attorney's not going to Google your name and see what comes up.
Expect it.
Expect it. Is that one of the first things you guys do?
Completely. Yes.
Interesting. All right, and as always, you can go to our website, 620 AM KEXP, for more information on this show and other shows of this fine Salem Radio Network. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat. No Grinder, no Tinder, anything like that. I don't do that stuff. At Brian Glenn TV. Thanks, guys, for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. We'll see you later. We'll see you back here tomorrow.